Today, there are people that are still alive on this earth plane because of the work that we've done. Yeah, obviously very special to be featured on Forbes. So we started the company in 2013, and as the story goes, according to Forbes, we started from less than nothing. But really, the truth of that was I came back with a whole heap of aspiration and ambition, but really no money. So I was $40,000 in debt. I was living in my previous partner's mum's basement at the time, struggling to pay rent, and just was very fortunate that I got a few lucky breaks, but worked incredibly hard to build what is now the world's leading coaching university that helps people, make money and change lives all over the world. Yeah, when you're starting a business, you have no money for advertising. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a database or a network. I was living in the world's most isolated capital city. And so I heard an incredible principle, which is, where can you find your dream clients in the highest concentration? And for me, it was like, well, where are my dream customers that want to come to my events? They're probably at other events. And so I figured, well, if I can't get them to come to me, let me go to them. And so what I did was I looked online, and this is back in the days of meetup groups and Facebook group events. And I found any and every event in Perth, Western Australia that I could find, and there wasn't that many of them, that was in the field of personal development, business, mindset, strategy, entrepreneurship, youth development, like really anything and everything. Like I went to some wild networking events, but I just would go to as many places as possible because I figured that, number one, I needed to find people to speak to. I needed to get better at my craft of communicating. But I also knew as well that if I connected with enough people in the space, then eventually I would become a name in the Perth community. And the beautiful part about Perth is that it is so isolated, but when you can crack into that market, then word travels very quickly about what you do. So my strategy was very simple. I don't have money, but I have time. What I'm going to use with that time? Well, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to create and produce content. So I created my first YouTube channel, but obviously that nothing went further forward with that. We didn't get any views or any sales. But what I did do is I got great at communicating in a direct way. And then I would go to often 9 networking events a week. And I did that for 12 weeks in a row. And after that, sometimes I was going to the same networking event week after week. But after 12 weeks, we'd got to a point now we'd had enough clients as a base to be able to start making some money. We made 100,000 in 90 days. And then I could take that money and then start using that for paid Facebook ads. And obviously the rest is history, but that's where we got started. Look, starting from effectively less than nothing, you have a lot of inspiration, a lot of desperation. And so I would go to networking events, and sometimes the networking events were paid, but I didn't have the money to pay for the ticket. And so I'd go along to these breakfasts, and I knew that I was sitting at a table of 6 to 8 people, and I had to make a sale for my event while I was at breakfast to pay for breakfast. And so when you're constantly living hand to mouth, day to day, sometimes hour to hour, you get very good at getting very sharp in the way that you put things across. And Tony Robbins says it beautifully: if people have a choice to succeed or die, they usually succeed. And not that it was that dramatic, but you get the idea. And so we got started really just from that place. And what it did was it compelled me to do the scary thing, to do the thing which was going to make the biggest difference in my life for the years to come, which was just connect with people. The more you can connect with people, you get rejection, you refine what you communicate, you refine your pitch, you find different angles and opportunities, you meet somebody that introduces you to somebody else. Those little differences stack up over a long period of time. And obviously now, we've got clients in 170 countries around the world. Thankfully, I can't do networking events anymore because of the scale of what we have, but I always remember that was the beginning of it all. So I guess if I lost everything again, I probably wouldn't go back to networking events, to be honest, but that's what I certainly did to get started, and it served me very, very well. So I'm enormously fortunate to have grown up in an entrepreneurial family, very much a blue-collar family, hardworking. My grand and granddad were entrepreneurs in the UK. Before that was a thing that you call people, right? They were just self-employed. And so granddad had a mechanical business where he was a mechanic and then got into handyman business. And my grandma was a fashion designer that then became an interior designer. And so they moved over to Australia when I was 4 to try to give me and my sister a better life. And they left everything that they had behind in the UK. And they started from nothing. And they worked their ass off, and I saw them from when we moved over in 94 to, in 2006, 2008, retire multimillionaires. But in that journey, they went through a lot of very difficult times. And I got to work in their businesses. I got to work in their cafes and their small businesses. I got to answer the phones in the family business. And my dad was a salesman by background in finance and then real estate. My mum was a hairdresser. And so everyone was always self-employed. Like I didn't grow up in a world where you got a normal job. Like everyone was just in that world, right? So that was a tremendous, a blessing in so many ways, because I got to see the suffering and the difficulty of business, but I also got to see the benefit of being able to have a family-run business. And if you can get that to work, it's truly magical. So my first mentors were very much my family. Like the dinner table was a conversation around that more often than not. So that's what we got started. And then I had an unbelievable opportunity in 2013 to do an unpaid internship with one of the world leaders in personal professional development. And I'd never met this guy, but I knew about who he was. He had an incredible business back in the early 2000s, and he was changing millions of lives and making hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. And so on a whim, on a prayer, on a gamble and a risk, I moved overseas to work for a guy I'd never met before, and I spent 6 months living and working with him full-time, became his right-hand man, effectively his sort of operating officer or chief of staff, and he's also his head trainer. And I got to learn in this most incredible way from one of the world leaders in my industry, and then come back and start my business. So it was first my grandparents, my parents, then it was Chris, and then coming back and starting, obviously now Wild Success. We've had so many mentors, whether that be Trav and Liv or Dan Priestley, and we've obviously grown tremendously well in the process of that. But it's always been about those humble beginnings. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Do the work. And just try to do the best you can to provide for your family. I've just been very fortunate. We now provide for many families, but it's the same principles that I learned from my and granddad, my mum and dad, just doing it at a bigger scale. We've been very fortunate to have made certainly a lot of money, but the achievements that live with me the longest is not the financial impact, but it's the emotional impact. I can honestly tell you that today there are people that are still alive on this earth plane because of the work that we've done. And we've had some just remarkable programs and seminars. We have people that come to us because they're looking for a change or a transformation, and we've got people that come to us because it might be their last hope, right? And sometimes I'm blessed to know that before the seminar, and that helps, but there's been plenty of times we get to the end of the seminar and someone will pull me aside and go, hey, I just want to let you know this is where I was at, and you've kept it going. So I take the work very seriously. I don't take myself very seriously, and I'm enormously proud of the people that we've been able to touch and change through our work. But then also, what's also very, very special now is because we've been doing it for over a decade, you tend to see the sort of ripple effect of your work. And so you see the people that you helped in the early days now then doing that work for themselves in their own beautiful way. And we've got some incredible examples of people that have done work with us that have then gone on and become real change agents in themselves. And so we talk a lot about that wild sort of residual impact. If we can make a difference in somebody's life, then they'll go and hopefully make a difference in somebody else's life, and then the world is better because of the initial sort of seed of transformation that we were able to plant. So there's some beautiful examples I've got of both men and women, families, young people, older people over the years that we've helped make a difference with. It's really just it's a beautiful thing to take somebody through a journey where they might have gone in a place of suffering or pain, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, and then help them almost through this process of alchemy to change and transform and transmute those things and to effectively turn their pain into their purpose, their mess into their message, and make the rest of their life the best of their life. These are the things that fill my heart with tremendous joy. We're in a really tremendous position right now in the world. I think this is the best time in human history to be alive, but I also think it's a tremendously difficult, overwhelming, and challenging time for most people. So in the world that we live in personal professional development, online education, if you want to think about it like that more broadly, there is this really interesting intersect where if you think about it in this moment, I think you miss the context. If you have to zoom out a little bit to look at the post-COVID world that we live in, and so you had, in 2019, some of the biggest education companies in the world weren't doing it online. In fact, they were very anti-online education, online learning, and there was this whole conversation about how you can't learn online. And then COVID happens, and funnily enough, all of those companies figure out that indeed you can do it. In many cases, you can do it better. And so there's been this shift to a digital-first landscape where now you see people being able to access materials all over the world. And then, of course, on the back end of that wave, we've also seen then the rise of artificial intelligence, which is ironically creating people that are very much less intelligent. So there's this really interesting position where I think the traditional education system has been broken for many, many years, but it's without a doubt now no longer fit for purpose. And I think where we're seeing this really beautiful intersection is of three forces coming together simultaneously. We've got a yearning for this live event experience. We've got a yearning for in-person learning and education. We've got a learning for hands-on in-person learning and education and experience, actually doing the work. That's only becoming more and more significant. In a world where information becomes more commoditized, it's really not about information, but much more about transformation. Then we've also got this incredible shift in our culture moving to a digital-first way of being able to scale information and resources and knowledge and education. And at the same time, we've got artificial intelligence. And so if you can build those things together, I think that it's going to be a remarkable place. I think, for us as an organization, being that we've always been very focused on delivering an incredible result for the client first and foremost, and then we've been really pioneers in online education in the world of personal professional development, and now really at the forefront of AI, it's a huge opportunity for us to disrupt some very big players in the space. And I think that ultimately what we're going to see in the world of education is that as information becomes more accessible and more commoditized, that it's going to only further put an increased capacity and focus emphasis on people's ability to actually get the stuff done, to do the actual work, to pursue execution. To know and not yet to do is not yet to know. And we're going to find that even more of that becomes very, very significant. So I think some of the established players have figured out how to take their stuff online, but I never think that they've been very good at being able to actually get people to do the work, to actually implement the stuff. It's very easy to teach content online. It's very hard to facilitate change and transformation online and to empower people to do the work online. We're just very, very good at that part. We've always been good at that. So I think that's going to be a competitive difference for us in the long term. Yeah, well, look, we hit an incredible milestone this year, which has been amazing, but our long-term vision and goal is to really become the world leader in online education. I think we're not far away from that goal, and so really for us, we'll know that when we've arrived at that designation. And from a numbers perspective, we'd love to get to a place we're doing north of $100 million a year, and that we have that on the horizon over the next 3 to 5 years. If we continue this growth trajectory, then that's certainly where we'll be at. But really, it's just to continue to do the amazing work that we're doing with even more people in a more meaningful and rich way. Today we've got 200,000 clients in 170 countries. There's not that many more countries to go to, but we'd certainly love to have deeper market penetration into all of those places, opening up to new languages and new cultures as well, not just English speaking, and just to be able to change as many lives as we possibly can. I sleep well at night knowing that we make a difference in people's lives. We just want to do that deeper and wider and more profoundly. Good question. I think I'd tell him that no matter whatever his vision or goal is, just to think bigger, and also to blend two things simultaneously: this sort of hunger and drive to want to make things happen, but also an understanding of the patience that things compound in a way that you can't fully comprehend or understand, right? Like there's a great principle of losing the battle and winning the war. And sometimes I look back on the last 13 years and go, I failed so many of the goals that I was aiming for, but then I look at the life we have today and it's so much further ahead of where I could possibly have imagined. So we often overestimate what we can achieve in a year and underestimate what we can achieve in a decade, and we're certainly a great example of that.